narrowing it down just for police. That was my only.
You know, I'm sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
Just a suggestion, so you guys maybe can move on to the next topic, but Riley and Chief Nimmer will be here for the first meeting in October to kind of provide a recap of the closeout of 2B of the police station. And so at that time, you'll have had the information from, you know, the budget and the overview perspective, and that may be a good opportunity for you to ask some questions relative to that.
And the $5 million where it went, right?
And maybe we could submit questions ahead of time.
Oh,
so
sure.
they're prepared.
Yeah.
They could gather some responses.
Sure.
Because they probably won't have that information on.
Okay, moving on to Wilson Drive Phase 2. I had just asked this in my questions and the response. I don't remember, I remember when we finished up our last vote, our final vote on Wilson Drive, there were spreadsheets that talked about Kensington Plaza, like we're redesigning the road to have some space where there's supposed to be something there. And anyways, I do remember costs being included, estimates, which everything's an estimate until it's bid. So is it just a question of us looking at that, like taking the time to look at that spreadsheet and decide what we would like to move forward with, if anything, or was it your response was we don't know costs, so.
Right. You know, I asked Leanne to get some backdrop information on what we believe would be phase 2 possibilities. And I believe those were included as attachments to that. But yeah, at the end of the day, you know, frame out, you know, the board's desire to finish that boulevard area with whatever amenities that seem suitable for the community, and then we can put a cost on it and can certainly schedule at that point. That was just something that the finance department had never been brought forward as an approved project. It was more at the discretion of the board, so if the board's looking to take that up again, we can certainly keep that on the board.
I would feel comfortable moving that out to 2024, just as a placeholder. Just quickly. We could take more time to discuss if you want. I just wanted to wait.
Okay. Trustee Benton.
Yeah, okay, I'm not clear what phase 1 in terms of landscaping and other improvements and amenities, not on the boulevard area, because the boulevard's a boulevard, but on the narrowed area. There was a lot of discussion that I sat through for over a year, and the decision, and I still remember that slide with the arrows, you know, narrow or boulevard, and I still remember, and the one big arrow saying let's narrow the road was because we would have usable green space. That was the deciding factor of having usable green space. Phase 1, my understanding is Paul informed us there's going to be 100 and some more trees planted than were there before. That's a heck of a lot of trees. I know there's going to be a lot of trees. I assume there'll be sod, you know, but I can see now there's a lot more concrete sidewalks than there used to be in connection with the bus stop and the entrances to the park. So so I'm not really clear what the end of phase 1 is going to look like. If we have an understanding of where we're going to be at the end of phase 1, then we can start talking about phase 2. But I'm not comfortable, you know, if we wanted usable green space, then we need to. That was the basis of this decision. Then and I know Leanne put in a request for street furniture for $60,000 in capital this year, and I don't know, I'm not being very articulate, but I feel like it was an integral part of that decision and how that decision was made, and we can't just punt at this point and say, well, we're done, you know.
Yeah, so that's, I think, going off of that, you wanted in, because it was an integral part, it was a whole project. And I think we have costs, because it wasn't just the green space over on the narrowed side, it's also those side streets that we built in space for something. So anyways, I agree with Trustee McCaig, I don't have a preference on the year. I would say 2021, that's my preference. Yes, Rebecca.
So this week, I had an amazing experience to go out there with Jenny Walpus and our DPW director and walk the route. And I don't know all the details of the prior meetings because I wasn't here throughout the design and planning. I came in right at approval. But I gotta tell you, it's looking phenomenal. That being said, I don't know about you, but it's always hard for me to kind of conceptualize a space when I see it on plans. But when I get out there, when I see the improvements, then it becomes something different to me. I'd suggest, because I haven't done the bulk of the tree plantings and landscape at this point, would you be willing to consider doing a walking tour of it in the spring when stuff has taken place? And then we could bring up that list? Because I'd like to learn from you. I remember a list of concepts and things, but that may be maybe more helpful. Just a suggestion.
Sure. Trustee Carpenter and then Trustee McCaig.
I mean, that was sort of my question was, what is that phase 2 encompassing? So to go through that walkthrough for me would be super helpful to understand what would be phase 2 and then I could feel a lot more comfortable with it. So I think that would be a great opportunity.
Can you forward the spreadsheet that was used for phase 1 adoption?
Sure.
So that
Yeah.
board meeting,
Yep,
and at least so
Yeah.
that we all have the concept of what was considered and the cost attached to it, and then when we do our walking tour, that might help. Trustee McKay.
Just to get back around to why I said 2024, it's not a value judgment or how important it is, it's more the logistics of walking it in the spring of 2020, and then looking at what my experience with parks is that sometimes space does change from planning to actual living. And then sometimes there are other types, it could turn out to be small capital that would come from park improvement funds. You know, we have there may be other ways we can fund it. So that's why I thought if we placehold it for 2024, we're gonna have more information. We can always move it up. There might be other opportunities. So that's why, because it was pretty conceptual when we approved it, and so that was why I put that in, just to share.
Great, thank you. Trustee Moore.
Again, just to be very brief since we're short on time, but I agree. Conceptually, for me, we started our project. We certainly want to see that project through. This is part and parcel of that project, and we want to see that project through the end. But I do feel like I would feel more comfortable with it once we do the walkthrough and kind of understand where phase 1 ends and where phase 2 begins. But I do think it should be part of the plan.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item. What'd you say?
I'd be happy to include a placeholder for that, if you want to give me some
Trustee
direction on
McKay said
here.
2024.
Is the board
Is
comfortable?
the starting point of 2024 acceptable?
I
We
don't
can
know.
always move it back.
I mean, just for the numbers, fine.
But if it looks better to the community to have it, if that looks like too much of a, political.
No, I can put it in 2021 and we can bump it the other way if it's too quick. I mean, I just
It was just
looking for
a
guidance,
suggestion on my part if the board doesn't agree with
because ultimately this plan, can reflect our
I
commitment to the
would
community.
put it sooner than later. I would say there's still some, I'm hopeful that people are excited and thrilled when their Wilson Drive is open again. But I would say, I think there are still some bruised feelings about the project on some West Side residents. So to push it off to 2024, might be perceived as,
Yeah, so that would mean keep it in the
I would
first
put,
column.
I would put it farther, I would put it 2020, 2021.
Okay,
Not that we necessarily are gonna do it that way, but at least it's like we're intending to make it as nice as we can make it.
okay, so for Edgewood Avenue, Rebecca?
So this goes back to, we had a meeting with MMSD to review, so to kind of bring people up to speed. The village hasn't been able to proceed with phase 3 of the sewer improvements because initially it required a huge upsizing of a sewer main, and MMSD has, graciously come forward and said that they would accommodate for the significant upsizing of this main in Edgewood Avenue.
And the reason they couldn't before, just really quickly, is because they have a policy, they cannot do something for one municipality. And so we brought along the commissioner of DPW, and he concurred in, that Milwaukee wants it as well, and then we were able to move forward.
Yeah, so it's considered a benefit to both communities. So Edgewood, just for your frame of reference, Edgewood on the north side is owned by the village of Shorewood. Edgewood on the south side, meaning dividing line of the road, like right center line, is owned by the city of Milwaukee. So when we sat down and had those discussions, and based upon some of the preliminary design, MMSD is actually going to be going to final design on these improvements next year. But based on the preliminary concepts, really each intersection is fully cut out in terms of pavement. So if you take a drive down that road, the blocks are short ends, they're not long blocks. So by the time you end up removing all the pavement in the middle of the intersection and just out from it, you got all these big holes, right? So Public Works was like, really, this road's not in good condition. We really should go back and repave this road, new curb and gutter, and put it back right.
Which is reconstructed, well, somewhat.
Well, it would be a reconstruction.
Mhm.
So part of our question to the city of Milwaukee when we met was, City of Milwaukee, we really think that this could be an opportunity. Would you be willing to split those proportionate costs?
And it was the same contract.
Correct.
So
MMSD graciously said, well, we have a preliminary design. However, we think that there's opportunity for it to be feasible, that work got encompassed within the scope of our project, and that both the city and then the village would be billed back their proportionate share for non-sewer replacement pavement.
Right, so it is an MMSD contract.
So we don't know what the anticipated cost may be of that, but I really think that that's a great value for you since the
It's gonna be cheaper.
MMSD will be replacing a significant amount of pavement already. Then you repave that roadway, you can kind of walk away for a period of time.
Did you see the answer back to that question in the notes? I just want to know, it was,
From Mark?
no, I think it was from Leanne, right? Anyways, she did not hear it that way, so I just wanted to be clear that maybe you need to communicate with her.
Well, the city did not commit. The city of Milwaukee, they expressed an open desire to review the information. I think everyone said that we want to go back after preliminary design.
But the pavement's all torn up, so it's like,
Oh, right,
Right,
I think it's a no-brainer, I'm on the same page with you. I think it's a no-brainer, we just want
Where
partnership.
is the big tunnel that MMSD is talking about putting in?
right
It's
there.
located on Edgewood.
On Edgewood.
On
When
Edgewood.
we discussed it the last time
Totally
with
different.
Mustafa, it was farther to the west. And I thought it was west of Capitol, and it was like Menlo, Newton, Beverly, he was saying somewhere in there is where MMSD was gonna put it. But now they're saying, no, we're putting it east of Oakland. So now they're saying it's gonna be east of Oakland on Edgewood is where they're saying they're locating that big tunnel.
What big tunnel, so let me just, because I don't know if you were
I
around,
wasn't here before with some
Right.
of the other plan renditions. but-
and I wasn't either for when some of those presentations, but this is a larger pipe to allow more flow to the facility of MMSD.
Exactly.
Right. And that
When
is,
they talked about it before,
it's-
it was
yeah,
on the other side of Oakland, and we were talking to, does anybody else remember this?
No, I don't remember. I remember originally it was a tunnel down Menlo, and then we shifted down to Edgewood.
Oh, I thought it was on
And we
the
were gonna
other
have to
side.
pick up that's
Yeah,
part.
it's $8 million.
And then MMSD came up through and said, no, they'll put, I think it's a parallel pipe there. They have a huge pipe. from
Correct.
Edgewood now, so it's just adding another pipe.
but we need to
Pick up-
connect to it, and so I think,
Right.
so in my notes, I have 3 questions. One is, if we're reconstructing Edgewood and Oakland, is that the time we move the pit? Or is it, do we wait till the 2027 when we do actually open? And I'm okay either way, that was my question. And then the second one was, is there other things, now that we know that pipe, are all of the connections, so we know the date, the timing of that pipe, 2021, correct? So the road work, we probably budget in that year.
Correct, and the sewer and water improvements and the road improvements have been budgeted in the additional components of phase 3 have been outlined within the scope of the LRP that you were provided.
With the exception of the plans to replace the water utilities meter pit at Edgewood.
I didn't see Edgewood costs in any of the maps of this long-range plan. Like,
That's correct.
right? So it's not in here.
Not yet.
No, that's why it's on the additional list.
Sorry, I have.
It was not on the plan last year. It was a newer discussion that occurred this year.
Okay, thank you for
Sorry.
saying that.
Thank you for the bagels.
Thank you.
That was really helpful.
So that was just my question, is we probably need to put in a cost or placeholder for 2021 for the road. And then any other sewer or utility work that would be associated, whether it's moving that pit or whether it's not, or I just don't know what else, because it doesn't show up on any of our schedules, like it doesn't show up in any of those maps.
Correct.
Right. So we're seeking input. Do you agree? Or,
To take advantage of this.
I know President Rosick and I have had meetings about it, but we want to inform you of it. Do you agree to go forward with it at that time? Okay, great.
What are you agreeing to?
Oh, I'm sorry.
The pavement?
Edgewood.
Or the
Correct.
The water pit?
The pavement.
The pavement, oh yeah.
Can you tell me a little about that water pit, because I know it's on our list? No, it's not. Yes, it is, it's number 11. Can we
No,
just
no.
jump to that real quick?
Yeah,